up. They're going that way. They're going that way, guys. You guys gotta back up.
Terence Crawford and Dant Davis were the most unexpected people to run into themselves yesterday after what had happened on the social media platform X, formerly Twitter, between the both of them yesterday. Well, let's just say it was meant to happen, and they were meant to do way more than the verbal jabs that social media allowed them to do yesterday. The chaos began when Terence Crawford was on his way back from the Ring Magazine Awards in London, and Dant Davis, having been away from camp, recently had a meeting outside of America as he plans to resume training camp on his return. Fate brought the both of them across each other, and it was just the perfect avenue to let chaos thrive. Devon Tank Davis was the first one to cite Crawford, and rather than mind his business, he went after the former undisputed world welterweight champion. He met with Crawford and questioned what the online feud was all about. Crawford, who didn't take him seriously, said a few words and just walked away. Then Gervonta Davis continued yelling until Terence Crawford's team members pulled away from the pound-for-pound king, and from the look of things, it's about to get real between Crawford and Gervonta Davis. While we expect a Crawford versus Canelo fight, we should also be open to the prospect of Terence Crawford and Devon Davis doing more together. It could be a street fight, a boxing fight, or even more. But the fight isn't meant to end just that way. Essentially, the fight was an offshoot of what happened at the Ring Magazine Awards in London on Saturday, as Gervonta Davis was one of the not absentees. The entire boxing royalty marked their presence at the London Ring Awards. However, a few were noticeably absent, perhaps the most prominent being Devon Davis. The Ring Magazine Awards ceremony brought together the best boxers of today in London this weekend, with the exception of Devon Davis, who, despite announcing his retirement for 2025, his unbeaten record after 30 fights with 28 knockouts places him in the elite of boxing. Tank was probably not invited because he is not on good terms with Riyadh Season and Sheikh Turki Alik, who also owns the Ring Magazine. It seems the lightweight champion wasn't too pleased about it either, feeling as though he had been left out of the invites. Davis made several posts on his X account, which he later deleted, but Terence Crawford took the opportunity to mock him, which generated a dispute on social networks that has continued until Tuesday. His displeasure quickly followed a series of deleted posts where he slammed both the organizers and the attendees. Tank Davis might not be on the most favorable terms with the Riyadh Season team. While the reasons behind his absence from the Ring Awards remain uncertain, he did receive a response, one that came from Terence Crawford. The two champions have been at loggerheads for some time, trading barbs and taunts in the past. Reports suggest that Crawford, who recently met with Turki Alik, may be inching closer to an epic showdown with Canelo Alvarez later this year. Taking a jibe at Devon Davis, Terence Crawford laughed loudly. "I see somebody mad they weren't invited to the Ring Magazine gala. I remember being left out. That's why when they let me in, I crashed the party." But Crawford posted along with some mocking emojis in response to the deleted posts from Gervonta Davis, but some were rescued by users. Well, to understand why Crawford responded with a taunt, we need to look back at the post Devon Davis shared. Though the posts appear to have been deleted, a few publications managed to update them in their reports. Why they didn't invite everybody, Davis asked in his post, adding, "But they invited people they deal with. Get out of here, stop bum eating." Then, seemingly pointing at Eddie Hearn, he added, "Look at that little rat thinking he came up on something. Now tell them all to fight each other, since they have a heavy roster." He continued. Gant also had words for Turki Alik, first asking them to take the opportunity to fight among all the guests, and then criticizing the Sheikh for not knowing anything about boxing. His words seem to allude to the Riyadh Season head. They want to act like this guy is good for boxing when he is not good at stuff. If so, why is he not building the people where he is from? This guy knows nothing about boxing at all, and this is who they're turning to. They want to act like this guy is good for boxing when he's not good at anything. If why isn't he training people from where he's from, this guy doesn't know anything about boxing, and that's who they're turning to. Tank Davis posted in another of the messages deleted from his X account. Then he ranted about how, unlike him, many fighters are willing to leave American shores to make their money. But in the end, all they get is a barely countable crowd attending their fights. The dispute between Davis and Crawford continued until Tuesday, apparently because Gervonta bragged to Terence that he had more money. Davis seemingly didn't take too kindly to Crawford's response, and in more since deleted posts called out Bud over how much money he makes. "I still make more than you y'all think he's chasing greatness. He's not. That's what he has to do to make decent money. The first thing a rich fool tells another rich fool is that he has more money than you. I bet I have more investments than you, and I don't owe $1 in taxes. You can't buy anything that I can't buy and want, sir, and that's a fact. Let's see who has the longest lasting money, smart boy," Bud Crawford wrote to Tank Davis, who responded not to complain, accompanied by some insults. Fans may find this interesting. Last year, during the press conference for the Lamont Roach fight, he shocked everyone by announcing that he would retire from boxing by the end of 2025. Terence Crawford and Gervonta Davis are currently 3 divisions apart, but have competed in the same classes in the past. Crawford kicked off his campaign at lightweight. Tank Davis is currently a world champion. He became undisputed at super lightweight, where Tank Davis has also won a belt. Crawford has since continued to move up, clearing out the welterweight division before making his debut at 154 pounds last year. Davis remains back down at 35, holding the World Boxing Association world title and knocking out all comers. The big hitter from Baltimore has said he would knock Crawford out in the past, perhaps tongue-in-cheek, but the bigger man has warned him not to punch above his weight. Whilst the fight is highly unlikely to ever take place, some believe it wouldn't be a foregone conclusion. In an interview with Real Life Productions, multi-division world champion Roy Jones Jr. said, "That's a good damn fight," clearly believing it would be competitive if the pair met just underneath the welterweight limit, and giving Tank a good chance due to one reason: "I don't see anybody around that's going to beat Bud, unless it's somebody way bigger than him." But don't sleep on the fact that if he and Tank fought at about 145, that's a good damn fight. You understand me? Because they both have very high IQs, and Tank is very explosive. That's the one thing that Tank got that Errol Spence didn't have in boxing. An explosive fighter can go a lot of places. I was only able to cover the weights that I covered because I was so explosive. Explosiveness keeps people in check. The two Americans will continue their campaign separately, with Crawford chasing a fight against super middleweight champion Saul Canelo Alvarez that would require a 14 pounds jump, and Tank out in March against Lamont Roach Jr. before, according to his latest press conference, retiring at the end of the year. Meanwhile, Tank fans can look forward to his upcoming clash with Lamont Roach Jr., which is scheduled to take place at the Barclays Center on March 1st.
Gave a little prediction on the fight, talked about Errol has a metal shield and you have a glass shield. Talk about the punch resistance. What do you think of Tank's assessment, man?
While Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez is the fight that looks set to be made, Gervonta Davis has now inserted himself into the conversation. Crawford and Canelo have reportedly agreed a deal for the mega fight to take place this year, bringing together two of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the sport. The fight is believed to have come together after the pair met separately with Saudi chief Turki al-Sheikh in London over the weekend, after a year of back-and-forth discussion over whether or not it will happen. While most in boxing are excited at the prospect of seeing Crawford and Canelo square off, it seems that another of the sport's biggest stars isn't that impressed.
I mean, you came up from 35, right?
He ain't fighting no real guys at 47.
So, okay. What about everyone's talking about Errol?
With Davis apparently not a fan of the fight between Crawford and Canelo, his coach Calvin Ford has also delivered his verdict for how the fight will go. The debate over who would win between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford continues to rage on. The fight would be one of the biggest in boxing, putting together two pound-for-pound greats, although it would require Crawford to make a huge jump up in weight. Devon Davis's trainer, Calvin Ford, has now had his say on the potential matchup when speaking with Fight Hype and appeared to be leaning towards the Mexican.
But Crawford, on the other hand, I don't see nobody around that's gonna be that beat Bud unless it's somebody way bigger than him. But don't sleep on the fact that
Canelo is the king. It's a good fight, and I'd like to see that fight and the outcome of it. Canelo has been making some good moves for his fights. Ford also discussed the performance of Crawford in his last outing, where he moved up to 154 pounds to defeat Israel Madrimov, but was unable to get the stoppage. It was his first fight. You can't say he didn't carry the power up there. He had to make adjustments. It's like when Benefitt's went up in weight. It's based on them making adjustments. I hope Terence Crawford can get another fight at that weight, so he can show the world it's there. If it's not there, then we can start questioning. But it's a good fight. I like to see that fight. The outcome of it, you get what I'm saying. And been watching Canelo, been making some good moves, far as fights and whatnot. Ford finished by explaining just why he feels Crawford is chasing a showdown against Canelo. Terence is a bad boy. He's moving up because he wants to get the fight. He isn't getting any younger. He's doing all the stuff he needs to do to put his legacy here. While Crawford has been targeting the fight with Canelo, he has also recently been involved in a war of words with Teofimo Lopez, and their feud has ramped up with a fresh spat on social media.
if him and Tank fought at about 145, that's a good daggone fight, you understand me? Matter of fact, I'm saying that's a good damn fight, you understand me? Because they both have very high IQs, and Tank is very explosive. See, that's the one thing Tank.
Last 2 years, Crawford made a strong case to become the top pound-for-pound boxer in boxing when he destroyed Errol Spence Jr. in their super fight at 147 pounds. Davis, who fights at 135 pounds, was asked how he would fare against the 147 beat Crawford, and Tank believed he could beat the bigger fighter in 6 rounds. 147. He's going to sleep. He ain't got no chance. Hey, I got round 6, Crawford, then brushed off Davis's comments. Tank is in his weight class for a reason, and I don't see him coming up to 147 to face me no time soon. Crawford also discussed an improbable bout versus Davis during a recent appearance on The Breakfast Club, a popular morning radio program on New York's Power 1051 FM.
I heard him say, I'm easy work. If I was easy work, you would take all that money that he's offering you.
He just talking. Crawford told co-host Charlemagne the God and DJ. And he got the confidence in himself that he believes that he can do that because he's been knocking all these fighters out that he's been in the ring with, so no knock to Tank, but there's definitely levels, And if he comes up to 147 and he's thinking he's just going to knock Terence Crawford out, he's got another thing coming.
Terence Crawford, Canelo situation. Do you think that's a fight where they could get to a weight that makes sense? Do you think that the weight would affect Terence Crawford?
Canelo's the king. Whatever he say,
Davis, 30, has competed as high as junior welterweight, the first division in which Crawford became a fully unified champion. The left-handed Davis dropped former World Boxing Association World Super Lightweight champ Mario Barros 3 times in that bout, on his way to beating Barros by 11th round technical knockout in June 2021 at State Farm Arena in Atlanta.
The fight, I like to see that fight, the outcome of it, you know what I'm saying? And then watching Canelo been making some good moves, as far as fights and whatnot,
In his most recent appearance, Davis knocked out rival Frank Martin with a devastating knockout punch during the 8th round of a 12-round non-title bout that was contested at a contracted catch weight of 136 pounds. Crawford, 37, had also defeated each of his 8 welterweight opponents by knockout or technical knockout, since he relinquished his International Boxing Federation, World Boxing Association, World Boxing Council, and World Boxing Organization 140 pounds crowns to fight in the 147 pounds division 5 years ago.
For you, Tank, at 147, how does a fight with you and Terence Crawford look? 147? 140.
His purse would be big enough, however, to make Crawford take that fight if it were offered. Yeah, I'll stay at 147 for him, because that's a big money fight, said Crawford, who is also a former World Boxing Organization lightweight champion. It's a big money fight, yeah. But then what everybody's going to say, he was too small. Nobody is going to give me credit. They're going to say, oh man, you beat up a little guy that fights at 135. Yeah, Tank's like 5'5", He's a little guy, Yeah, he can punch. But in his weight class, not saying that he can't punch in any weight class, because he punches. And we see that, But what type of recognition am I get for, beating up on Tanka? Lot of people don't know 135 and 147 is a big jump.
And everybody say, what they do, but Tank is in his weight class for a reason, and I don't see him come up to 147 to face me no time soon.